Hey guys, happy Wednesday. It's Tara here from TaraAllenHealth.com, and I am happy to be back to my Wednesday live video. Last week I skipped it, and then I came to you live on Thursday with a quick little explanation about how things just got a little bit hectic, and the kids were with me even more than usual last week. And I had a big event last week, so there's a lot going on. But it's all good, and I'm back today, and today's topic is important, and it's one that I hear all the time, all about cooking and not having time to cook, because those are things that we struggle with. So most of us are, hey Joni, thanks for joining. Ooh, I'm shaking the table here. Good morning. So most of us are struggling with finding enough time to do even the most basic things, and we are also, most of us, especially if you're watching this video, on some sort of a health journey. You know, we want to eat healthier, we want to lose weight, we want to manage our diseases or our symptoms or prevent diseases in the future, or we just want to be full of energy and live as long as possible. You know, I don't know many people that don't fall into at least one of those categories and also don't have much time to cook. So there's that constant struggle. I feel it too. Right now my husband's away on business. He works very long hours and he goes away a lot. And so sure, there's that urge to just like make meals, you know, in 5 minutes or less a lot of times. And a lot of times I do make meals in five minutes or less. And I'm going to share some tips with you guys today. But before I get into those 5 tips about how to save money, save time when cooking, saving money is good too. I'm going to talk about priorities. So a lot of times people will come to me and say, Tara, I want to eat healthier, or I want to make healthier meals for the family, or I want to lose weight. And then they immediately follow it up with, but I don't have time to cook. And while we eventually get into time management, that's a big part of what I do as a coach, because we need to find time to fit these things into our lives. We need to find time to cook and to shop and to meal prep and to exercise and to learn the things we need to learn in order to make these changes happen and practice them. It takes practice. So time management, we end up really getting into the details, the nitty-gritty of what your schedule looks like and how we can make it really work for you. But before we get there, and what I'm going to do with you today is I want you to consider your priorities. So a lot of times we think that certain things are our priorities, and we say that they are because we want them to be. So there's something in us that is a deep-seated value that we would like it to be a priority, but the truth is right now it's just not a priority for you. And that's why you're not making the time to make it work. We all have seen different things happen where we think we have so many things on our to-do list that you absolutely can't move, can't change, and then some sort of an emergency happens, right? Somebody goes to the hospital, you have to drop everything for the day. And it's amazing to see how we then make that work. We can cancel all the things that we didn't think we could. We can switch things around and move things around. And I'm not saying that that's what we should be doing all the time, but it's just a little bit eye-opening to realize that sometimes our schedules are not quite as set as we think they are. Sometimes we have to be a little bit more creative about how we think about things. So if health or weight loss or cooking with your family or living a long, vibrant life, if any of those things are truly a priority for you, then when you break it down, cooking for yourself is going to have to be a priority, because unfortunately, big corporations or chain restaurants, they just do not have our health or our waistline in their own list of priorities, right? They're just thinking about their bottom line. They're thinking about our cravings. They want us to crave food. They want us to eat something and then get hungry again an hour or two later. They don't really want to satisfy us for a long time because they want us to keep buying more and more of that food, right? It's really all about greed for them. When you're buying from large corporations, they're making food in a lab. It's very far from the food that it started out as, and it's very processed. So here's the deal. We get 3 chances a day to express our values, to express our, our thoughts about health and being humane and what we think about the environment and choosing wisely. And if you have snacks in there also, if you're eating more than 3 times a day, then really you get more than 3 chances every day to express your priorities here. So just choose wisely. Think about when you eat your food, where it came from, how close it is to the original source. Did it fall from a tree? Did it grow from the ground? Did it run across the land, or did it swim in the ocean? Those are the real foods. And then from there, it's along a spectrum where it gets processed. So how far along that spectrum is the food that you're eating? We all eat foods that's a little bit, at least a little bit processed, right? You might buy a box of crackers, but they could either be over here, where they're full of like 25 ingredients and hardly anything is good. Or they can be a little bit more in the middle, where they're using like whole seeds or whole grains or those types of things, and maybe there's only 5 ingredients in there. So just think about where along the spectrum it is that you're buying food. Realize that you have a chance to express your values at least 3 times a day, and think about your priorities. Do you really not have the time to cook, or are you just not making it a priority right now? And that's okay, but we're gonna talk about 5 ways in a minute about how you can save time. So the other thing is, cooking is a labor of love. It gives you a chance to, make something productive. You make something with your own 2 hands. You're cooking for other people a lot of times, so you're showing your love through the food that way. And it's a great lesson for kids, whether your kids are little or they're grown, but it's a great lesson to not only teach them how to cook so they can do that when they get older, but also to teach them that it's an important thing to pause for a moment and to cook, and that food and what you're putting in your body really is a priority. It's a chance to practice staying present. So I know that can be really hard, but sometimes it's just a matter of when you're stirring your pot that you try to do nothing else but just stir the pot, right? I know a lot of times we're yelling to our kids, go wash your hands, do this and that. I'm doing that too. But if you can just take even 30 seconds, and while you're stirring the pot, just stir the pot, or while you're chopping your veggies, just chop the veggies. And it's kind of a chance for you to zone out. And it's almost like a sensory experience for you. So those of us that do have little kids know that our kids, they like to get dirty. They like to get their hands in things. Those types of activities get them really happy. They like to feel different things, play with different textures. And that's a chance for us to do that too when we're cooking. We get to play with different things, get our hands a little bit dirty, work with different colors, with different flavors and smells. And so it's a nice little outlet for us as well. And you will automatically eat healthier the more you cook for yourself, because you wouldn't possibly even get your hands on a lot of these ingredients that go into the food that they make in labs or in chain restaurants and that type of thing. You're not going to add preservatives in there. You're not going to add food dye, most likely. You're just going to be using more real ingredients when you cook for yourself. So here's my 5 tips for saving time so that cooking can kind of rise up the priority list, and you'll have a little bit more time to do that. So number 1, start with easy and faster meals. So I was talking to you earlier in the video that my husband's away, and he travels a lot and he works really long hours. So I always like to have a few options on hand, that even if my meal plan for the week looks like, awesome meals every week, which by the way, I don't do that. I always schedule in at least 1 or 2 nights for leftovers. The kids always eat less than I think they're going to eat, and we have more leftovers, or quicker meals, that type of things. Sometimes though, when I did plan a nice meal, something happens and I want a quicker meal. So I'll usually keep something like alternative pasta. So my family and I, we can't do gluten, so we'll have like chickpea pasta. There's this awesome brand called Banza, B-A-N-Z-A, and they make pasta out of chickpeas. It's very high in protein, it's very high in fiber, and it's really good. So I'll have like a box of that on hand. I'll have a jar of tomato sauce. So no, it's not as good as if you make tomato sauce from scratch, but I like this brand called Victoria's, and I think the basic like marinara, low sodium version has like 5 ingredients. It's like tomatoes, olive oil, salt, tomato puree, and maybe 1 other ingredient. So it's, as far as food process goes, it's like a little bit closer to the real food than it is all the way on the other side. They don't have any added sugar, at least the kind that I get, no added sugar, nothing crazy, no weird ingredients. And then I'll have like a bag of frozen organic peas. And those 3 things can come together and make a full meal. It's a balanced meal. So the pasta with the peas and the sauce, it's got, plenty of protein, it's got veggies, it's got the fiber, it's got the healthy fats from the olive oil and the sauce. So just keeping something like that on hand, it's got a long shelf life, and I know that I can just, go to that if I have to. And I'll have at least a few other meals on hand, something like that, where I can just reach when I need to. The whole idea is that if you have something unexpected happen, we have to plan for the unexpected. There will be nights where someone's sick. There will be nights where you just don't feel like cooking, where you're tired. We're going back to school soon. For anyone outside of the New York area, I think your kids are back in school already. And, there's meetings that pop up and PTA and work things. And so you need to have more and more of these quick, easy meals on hand that still pass your test of being high enough quality that you want to feed yourself and that you want to feed your kids. So instead of planning for gourmet meals every day, just know that you may not be able to do that every night. So tip number 2 is to cook once and eat twice. So this is what I suggest for anyone who comes to me and says that they really hate doing meal prep one day a week or they can't do it. So a lot of us know the concept. You choose one day during the week, like usually on the weekend, like a Sunday. Maybe you do your grocery shopping on the Saturday, and then on the Sunday you just batch cook a bunch of stuff to get prepped for the week. I think that's a fantastic idea, but I also realize that it's not doable for a lot of people. If you're a single mom, maybe, or if you have alternative work schedules or whatever, you may just not be able to make that work. So the other approach that I like then is the cook once, eat twice. So this can really be like cook once, eat 3 times. But whatever you're making, make enough that you're going to have leftovers for later in the week. You could have the leftovers just as is, or you can have the leftovers where you can repurpose it. So for example, if you're going to make fish, let's just say, and you have it in a nice meal one night, then you can keep it plain. So then later in the week, you can turn it into, I don't know what, I don't eat fish. Maybe you can turn it into soup, or you can throw it on top of a salad. So that's another way you can kind of repurpose your leftovers. But besides the leftovers, I'm talking about actually adding some more that you can freeze. So this way you have freezer meals on hand that you can grab whenever you want, and you're not getting those gross freezer meals from the store. You're not dealing with all the BPA chemicals and the plastic linings that you have when you get the freezer meals. So if you're going to make, let's say, a big stew, make like a triple batch, and you're going to have some of it tonight. You'll have some of it like in 3 days, so you can just keep it in the fridge as leftovers, and then you'll have another portion that you can freeze, and this way on a busy night, you just pop that out and defrost it. So tip number 3 is cooking with kids so it's an activity. So a lot of us are really careful about spending time with the kids, quality time, wanting to make sure we're keeping them busy and learning and having fun and all of that. Well, if you think about cooking or baking as an actual activity that you're doing with the kids, then you can be really productive with it. So let's say you choose to make some kind of muffins, one afternoon, and have the kids involved. They could be playing with their pots and pans. They could be playing with the measuring cups if they're really little. As they get older, they can help to pour in. If you pre-measure things and kind of line them up inside the bowl, they could just flip them all over. They can add stuff to a blender if you're making like a sauce or pesto or a smoothie. And when they get older, then they can really help to chop and do all those things. Kids typically love to help if they see that you're doing something and that, you kind of have to approach it with an enjoyable, instead of saying, oh, I have to do this today, they might not really want to join you. But if you're just over there having a good old time, playing some music, enjoying yourself, you'll be so amazed at how the kids just kind of gravitate towards that, and they want to be like right up in there cooking with you. So if you make it an activity, you don't feel so guilty about taking time away from the time you get with your kids. A lot of moms think about this a lot, and especially working moms. They say, I've been gone away from them all day. I don't want to come home and cook. I just want to spend time with them. So yeah, maybe one night a week, the thing that you do together as a family is some cooking. So tip number 4 is multitasking. So typically I don't really recommend multitasking. I feel like we are a society that does way too much multitasking. It doesn't work. But what I'm talking about is the mindless stuff. So if you have a phone call to make and you're just chopping up some vegetables, watch your fingers, but you can talk on your phone, maybe put it on speaker or wear some headphones or Bluetooth, and then chop your vegetables. You know, so you can kind of do those mindless things alongside cooking. It doesn't really take that much effort, and you're knocking off some things off your list that you wanted to do anyway. Hey, Luana, thanks for joining. So some things I think about are phone calls, especially if you know you're going to be on hold for a long time. You can make that phone call, put it on speaker, and go about your cooking your meal. Books on tape or podcasts. So if you enjoy those things, or if you're learning from those things, then you can do that while you're cooking. And cleaning dishes. So I like a lot of times too, if there's something that I really need to come and stir every couple of minutes, I really need to stay in the kitchen, I might throw that on, wash a few dishes, or start to load up the dishwasher, and then go back to stir and go back, because I'm right there anyway, and I might as well get the dishes out of the way. So this way you're saving time on the other end. And then the last thing is looking at those priorities like we started off talking about. Can anything be shifted? So is there anything currently that you're doing that you don't need to do, or that you don't need to do quite as long or as much of? So the first thing that comes to mind, and it's not just because I'm talking to you guys right now, but Facebook or social media, even checking email. I think a lot of times we check those things way more often than we need to. If you check in on those a couple of times a day, for most people that should be fine. So maybe you can put your phone down, or track what you're spending your time on now. So take like a day or two, track what you spend your time on, and see if you can just shift things a little bit here or there. Even spending 5 more minutes to prep a little bit of meals, chop some veggies or something, can really make a big difference. Boil some eggs on one day, chop some veggies while you're chopping up vegetables anyway for dinner, chop up some extras so you can bring it to lunch the next day. There's all kinds of tips like that, but those are my top 5 for saving some time when you're cooking. So I'm going to go over them again. Make sure you have easy and fast meals on hand, but meals that pass your test. So if you're trying to lose weight, make sure these are meals that are going to help you reach your goal. If you're trying to eat healthier, by the way, those two things typically go hand in hand, then try to have some meals on hand that are going to meet those needs. Try to cook once and eat twice. And then I said actually 3 times. So you're gonna cook once, you'll have leftovers later in the week, and then you'll have a third meal that you'll be able to pop out of the freezer in a couple of weeks and have. So typically freezer meals, if you freeze them right away and they're airtight, they should last up to 6 weeks, most things. So you can pull it out whenever you need it. Cook with the kids, so it's an activity, so that's kind of like a double whammy. They're doing something fun, they're enjoying, they're learning, they're getting their hands dirty, you're getting your hands dirty, and you are getting something accomplished. Tip number 4 is to try to multitask. So grab that phone call while you're cooking, or wash some of the dishes while you're cooking. And then tip number 5 is to take a look at your priority list. Is there anything that can go? Is there anything that can be shortened or condensed? Or maybe you just don't do something quite as long, like social media. So that's it for today. I hope these tips were helpful. If you have any other tips you want to share, or if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.